Hi, everybody, and welcome to Impact Globally with Your Voice. I'm Mike Handcock, and I'm really glad to have you here from all over the world. We've got hundreds of people joining us on this call today. This is not a webinar, this is a special online event. And I'm really excited to be presenting this to you because, of course, this is one of the new ways that we can actually impact globally with our voice. And before we get on to this today, I just want to point out something in this photo. This photo is from a couple of years ago now, and it was taken in Bali at the end of one of my weekend events there. And predominantly Asian audience, Iranians, Kazakhstanis, people from Malaysia, people from Dubai at this particular group here. And as you can see, I'm very, very clearly spottable in the middle of that group. Not only because I'm in the middle, but because I stand out. So one of the things of impacting globally with your voice is because you have to stand out. There are 55,000 registered speakers in the world, and on a LinkedIn search, 89,000 people with the word speaker in their name. So you are one of 89,000 people out there who is trying to get your message out across the world. So let's jump into this thing. What we're going to cover today is very much sticking to the program, but we're going to throw it around quite a lot. So we're going to be looking at how to build that really crazy profitable international speaking business that rocks. When I say crazy profitable, I'm talking not about a six-figure business here, but I'm talking about a seven-figure business. I'm also going to show you how to make money while you see the world and have experiences of a lifetime, because that's one of the best things that speaking is about for me. It's about going to different countries. It's about meeting different people. It's about addressing different audiences. It's about changing the world and being part of the way in which the future of the world is going to be, whilst you're getting to see the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids and all the other things that you've always wanted to see in your life. You get paid for doing it. Fantastic. We're going to talk about how to get known globally and get some PR as you go, and how to productize your message and sell more than you can imagine. And then we're going to talk about how to build a team that can take care of your business so that you don't have to. But a little bit about me just before we go on. And I know that on the start of this special online event, and here's one tip. We don't call things webinars because everybody runs webinars. We run special online events. So it's just a tip for you going forward in future that if you're going to do something online, don't do it as a webinar, do it as a special online event. So a little bit about me. I came into the speaking business in 2002. I was the general manager, sales and marketing of a very large financial institution in New Zealand, my home country. And at that point there, in 2001, I had released my first book. I don't sell it anymore. The reason I don't sell it is because it's not who I am anymore. It was called Eyes Wide Open, a visionary guide to selling financial services. It was based on all of my training material that I'd used in financial services since I went into financial services many years before that. And what I did to get that book out is I actually went to my company and I asked them to pay for it. And I asked them to pay for it because their brand would be on the cover, they could have advertisements in it, that sort of thing, and they agreed, probably because I was very senior in the company, had something to do with it for sure, but also because they thought it was a darn good idea. That book went on to become a bestseller in Australia, New Zealand, and Malaysia. And it's been seen in Indonesia, China, and basically most of the Asian part of the world since then. And that led me to get invited to speak at a conference in Singapore. And so I went to this conference in Singapore in 2002, thinking that I knew it would be a big conference. I thought maybe 800, 900 people, because I was used to conferences in New Zealand of a couple of hundred. But in fact, that conference was 18,000 people, and that was my very first international speaking gig. So that conference led me on a journey to then speak in Asia and get invited all around the place as I did, which made me want to go, why would I ever want to be local when I could go global? You got picked up in limousines, people looked after you, you got very good quality accommodation, you got unique experiences, fantastic food, cultural experiences that you just wouldn't have when you travel because you're with people and their families. So I decided at that point there that I wanted to really do this international speaking thing. And here we are many, many years after that, well over a decade after that now. And I've spoken in 46 countries around the world. I've traveled to 105, but I've given presentations in 46, including places like Greece, Italy, Egypt, Bahrain, Peru, you name it. There's some places in there that you wouldn't normally go. Bolivia, to name a few. And I've been to India 20 times to give talks, and I'd never been to India before I started speaking. So I'm very, very well known in India. So this is what's happened since then, and I've spoken to over 250,000 people. I've now got 14 books out, not just one. So there's 14 of those, literally almost one a year since I've been doing this. And I've had the most extraordinary life, and I've built a business and a life that's seen by many as being the perfect life. Of course, it's got its problems. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I don't necessarily think I've done this right. I sort of fell from thing to thing to thing, and I tend to follow my flow a little bit, and we've done some weird things along the way. But in saying this to you, I want to share with you that we've got something amazing as speakers. We've got the ability to impact the world globally and leave an incredible legacy just by our voice. And the beautiful thing that I love about this business is you never know who you touch. Sometimes people meet you in the street years after and they say, I saw you talk. And I remember I spoke at a convention in Auckland called the Time Convention. And it was in 2007. The room that I spoke was probably 400 people, I guess. And I constantly, 10 years later, get people to say to me, I saw you at Time and you were amazing. So I'd have to say it was probably the best time I've ever spoken. But definitely there are those memorable events where you just knock it out of the park and you change people's lives. And that's what we're about here. We're about inspiring people. We're about putting our mark on the world. We're about being part of legacy and about being part of history. So enough about that. We also on this call, I'm going to talk to you about the Global Speakers Summit coming up in 2018 in Auckland, New Zealand. And just before we get into our content, I just want to mention this, and I'm going to mention it a couple of times through this event because I really want to encourage you to join. It's not for profit. I don't make any money out of this. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I am the chairman of it. So what happened is that in 2005, the first Global Speakers Summit was held in Singapore. In 2007, it was in Dubai. In 2009, in Cape Town. In 2011, it was in the Netherlands, and in 2013, it was in Canada. And then it went into hibernation. It's a big event. It's tough to organize. It's none of them have ever run at a profit. And so a group of us in New Zealand have really been sort of promoting bringing this thing back, the greatest gathering of thought leaders on the planet. And so we put in a bid, and that sparked other bids from other countries. And our 52-page bid won to host this in 2018. So we are bringing together, there's already well over 100 people registered for this event. We are bringing together some of the greatest thought leaders on this planet in New Zealand. And there's places to speak, there's places to connect, and there's places to really learn. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later on. I was chosen to be the chair of it, probably because I've got a fairly high profile and also that I really understand the world. So this is something you definitely need to be at, and I'll speak about it a little more. Firstly, everybody just smile, take a deep breath. I'll take a sip of my water. There we go. And let's move on. The first thing you have to do to get really global, build a strong seven-figure business, is you have to super niche it. And what I mean by super niche is not just niche, but super niche. For instance, go to LinkedIn and type in the word leadership. If you're a leadership speaker, go and type in leadership speaker. You'll find there are hundreds of them around the world, if not thousands. Go and type in the word sales speaker. You'll find there are hundreds or not thousands of them around the world. But imagine if you're a technology speaker and your specialization was brand new technology that's sweeping the world, such as drones. And that's why I chose this photo for this particular thing. Apparently, the drone problem is starting to occur in the world in that it's causing havoc with animals, it's causing clutter in the skies, there's privacy issues, etc., etc. Imagine if you spoke about privacy and your talk was about how drones are invading the world. Okay, so you need a specialization. The person that I would invite you to go and Google, and if he's on this call, hi Frank, is Frank Finesse. Frank Finesse, good friend of mine, fantastic speaker. Frank is the #1 expert in the world at sales technology. He has the sort of ball together for sales technology speaking. So if you go and Google sales technology speaker, you'll probably find Frank Finesse #1 or #2 on any given day. There, I know I've tried it several times since he told me this 3 or 4 years back when we met in Paris. So here's the thing, by being that #1, he's being very specific. He's solving a very specific problem. You see, the problem isn't leadership. People aren't saying we have a leadership problem. They're saying that we have a problem with our leadership that is caused by X, Y, or Z. So it's that X, Y, or Z that you need to specialize in. People aren't saying we need to get our sales training up. People are saying we need specialization in closing. So one of my mentors, Dave Van Hoos, is known in America as America's #1 closer, right? That's his brand, America's #1 closer. So it's really a lot more specific. The same goes for customer service. You see, when you do this, you're competing. If you're in America and you're on customer service, you're competing against people like Shep Hyken, who's great in customer service. And you're in Asia and the Middle East, you're competing against Ron Kaufman, who, every time you get to an airport, one of Ron Kaufman's books on customer service will be staring you right in the face. He owns the space. It's pretty much like going out there and saying, I'm going to be Michael Jackson. You can't be. There's only one Michael Jackson. You can only be you. So you need to super niche. So, for instance, they could be keywords. And I have to tell you, folks, this has been one of the biggest problems in my career myself, is super niching. I don't personally like it. Why? Because I love to do different things and I grow and develop as a person, but it's not necessarily the best for your business. If I was wanting to make more money, wanting to build a much stronger business than I've even got, I would super niche. Now, I do have some niches. I'm the only speaker in the world that mixes ancient wisdom, quantum physics, and entrepreneurship. And that's attractive for my entrepreneur audience. But from a leadership perspective, basically I combine my skills in music and leadership. But I've taken it to another level there too, which I have to explain to clients. It's tough to put it in a website. So your website should give you clarity, because there are plenty of great speakers out there who are musicians. Freddie Ravel, fantastic friend of mine. I mean, he's sponsored by Yamaha and has played keyboards for Madonna and Carlos Santana. He's a far better musician than I'll ever hope to be, and he's a brilliant speaker. So why would I try and compete on that level with Freddie? But what he doesn't do is weave the knowledge that is the systems and patterns behind music into business, because the same systems and patterns appear in business. So you can niche that way if you like, and take some more explanation if you want to. But the best thing is to do what Frank's done and say, I am the world's #1 sales technology speaker. I'm the world's #1 speaker on unique ideas. I'm the world's #1 speaker on robotic creations. If you get what I mean here, there's so many fantastic ones out there. You have to stand out in that sea of sameness, because for you, selecting a speaker for a bureau or for a corporate is just like you and I walking into a bookshop. There's 1,000 books in there, and in our topic, there's probably a couple of hundred that we'll see straight away. What makes one leap out? You have to stand out in a sea of sameness. You can't be Mickey Mouse. So all of the little tricks and gimmicks, unless you're going to be a comedy speaker, a fantastic speaker like Tim Gard in America, who has just got the most amazing humor in his talks. He can wear the Mickey Mouse tie. It's part of his act. Or Wolfgang Rieber, one of my great friends from South Africa, now Germany, who is a magician. He can get away with this Mickey Mouse stuff, but you and I can't. We have to look the part. And that doesn't mean dressing in a black suit, because there's 1,000 other people dressing in a black suit. It means having a signature style. For those of you that are on this call that know me, you will know that I have a shoe sponsor, Maher Shoes, M-A-H-E-R shoes.com. Just by mentioning, I keep fulfilling my sponsorship agreement, so that's great. Go and have a look at their shoes for men. You'll see why. If you don't know me, you'll see why I stand out for my shoes around the world. I also have a shirt sponsor. And if we go back just 3 slides, boom, 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 you'll see why I have a shirt sponsor. So you need to stand out. A well-cut suit, properly tailored for you, if that's your image, is perfect. You see, super niching is all about positioning. Positioning is the key to you building a 7-figure business. If you look at the video on the page that you would have registered on about me, that's a positioning video. Mike Handcock has spoken to in 46 countries to over 250,000 people around the world. He's been mentioned by President Clinton for his philanthropic work. He has won Speaker of the Year X number of times, blah, blah, blah. That's all about positioning. Now, if I go and say it, it sounds up myself. But if I position with video content, with proper stuff in blogs, with books and things like that, then absolutely I am super niching there. Positioning is about transference of power. So here's a tip for you if you want to build a business fast in speaking. And this is a small ninja tip for you, but it's a very important one. Those of you that are speaking at conferences where there's an MC, unless you personally know the MC, it's probably best that they don't introduce you. Why? Because there's no transference of power. They're introducing everybody, from the most boring speaker to the company CEO to whoever, and you're just tarred in with the same brush. I would go to the most important person in that room, and if it's the CEO of the company you're working for, I would say to them, as part of my brief, part of my contract, that the CEO himself or herself has to introduce me. Now, you can give them a script, and if they're terrible on stage in front of this, you have to brief them. You have to spend that minute with them. The quantity of what they say is not important. The quality is very, very important. So go and have a look at W. Mitchell. And if W. Mitchell's on this call, I really love a lot of things that you do, and I love the way that you're introduced. I've seen W. Mitchell speak a few times. His introduction is this. The MC goes, "I'd like to introduce W. Mitchell, but here's somebody who's so much better qualified to do so." And a video comes up of Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton says, "Hi, I'm Bill Clinton. And today I'm going to introduce W. Mitchell, great friend of mine, and probably the person I consider to be the best speaker on the planet. Please put your hands together for W. Mitchell." Right? So do you need any better introduction than that? That's about positioning. If the CEO introduces you, that's about positioning. Walk up on stage, grab his or her hand, give them a hug, smile at them. Make it appear like you're best friends when you do that in your natural way, and you have positioned very well. And then use youism. That's individualism. That's the number one thing that people want as we head towards 2020 and beyond. People want things that are individual for themselves. So you too have to be an individual. It doesn't mean dressing crazy or anything like that. You might have a signature style. You might have a signature thing that you use. You might be known for 1 or 2 or 3 things, a pair of glasses even. It could be something in your makeup. It could be something in your book. It could be something that you do in every talk that you do that is your signature style, and that's the reason that people come back. One of my companies that we run is called Soul Journeys. It's a company that's been in existence for 10 years plus now. People have traveled and come on travel adventures with us up to and over 10 times. That's repeat business. And when I find out one of the reasons people love to come back is because of some of the meditation and spiritual work that we do on those tours. It's got nothing to do with the Eiffel Tower or the pyramids. It's got to do with the meditative and spiritual work that we do. Find out what it is that you do. Let's move on. Productization. You definitely will not build a 7-figure business if you don't productize. Why? Because unless you've climbed Everest, fallen off, lost 3 legs and climbed back up again, you're just not going, or you won the Olympics, or you were the number 1 sports person in the NFL 3 years running, or you just was the person who had an amazing life adventure in some way. You're simply not going to get paid the type of fees that those high celebrities pay, the $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 fees. It means you can do 10, 20 gigs a year and make your $1 million. You're probably more likely to be getting paid $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 and having to do 100 plus of those a year, which is a lot of work. So having productization is going to shortcut this a little bit. I like to look at it as a value waterfall. And value always flows from the highest point to the lowest point. So what you have to do is you have to position different pieces of value along that waterfall for you, for your customer. So you need to have free or tripwire products. Tripwire is a cool marketing term that means you're going to get somebody to buy something, but it might just be $7. You see a lot of books on Kindle for $1. That's a tripwire. It's hooking people into your system. You need to have different price points: low, medium, high, and extreme. Now, for me personally, I don't work so much in the corporate space. I work more in the entrepreneur space. We run our own events as well. So in any year, we could be running events in 12 to 20 countries. That's normal for us. So there with our events are one price point. We might have product back at the back of the room that's a different price point. We might be then selling them into a retreat style workshop, which is a medium price point. Then we'll move them from there to a coaching and mentoring package, which is a high price point. And then we might even sell them a license to all of our material, which is an extremely high price point. So my aim in the next couple of years, by about 2020, is to have a product for $250,000. I don't have that at this stage. Why should I have that? Because people will buy it. In 2016, we launched our $50,000 product. 4 people bought it in 2016. So we knew that there was a marketplace out there in our existing clients, people who wanted more from us, who would spend that type of money to get more from us. So you need to have those free or those tripwire products to get them in the front of the loop. Here's a very simple one. If you're conference speaking, if you're a keynote speaker or a trainer or something like that, simply asking the conference convener if you can have your books available there, and they say yes, may sell some books. That's great. So you might get paid $5,000 for the speaking fee, and you're speaking to 200 people. But if you pick up your book on stage and read from a part of it during there and mention, hey, this part, I say it better in my book, blah, 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 and you read from it, and you then at the end, before you put it down, you say, hey, I've got some copies out there to sell if anybody wants them, you will probably sell about 10 to 15% of the room. So 10% of 200 is 20 people. If your book's $30, that's another $600 you're adding on. That's another 10, 12% on your speaking fee there. So there's different ways to do that. And of course, then you can data capture. So now that they've bought the book, you can data capture those 10 to 12. You might be able to sell them into a $100 product. Maybe you can sell 2 or 3 of them into a $100 product. So now we've increased our speaker's fee by 20%. There's different ways to do this. I know when the global financial crisis was on, a lot of speakers in New Zealand were really suffering. Many went out of business at that stage because they just couldn't compete. But when we get to the next area, because I had product and because I could sell, if I wanted to do corporate, they'd say, I don't have any budget. And I'd say, fine, don't pay me. Just pay my expenses. And they go, oh, okay, what are you going to do? I'd say, providing you give me 15 minutes to sell from stage at the end of my presentation. And they'd all agree because it was easy for them because they wanted me. I never had a gig in that year where I earned less than my speaking fee. So productization is a great key to go forward. So what sort of products can you have? Firstly, you need an upsell strategy. So one of the ways to start this would be to do free reviews afterwards with your client. So do a follow-up to initiate productization. So this is the feedback I got from your audience. What did you get? Boom, boom, boom. I noticed because I was at your conference, this and this is a problem. We have some products here. We can work with these people here. You can roll out your coaching programs, your consultancy programs, your online video programs, your membership sites, or whatever it is that you want. So the types of products that you could have. You could do retreats. You could do facilitation conventions, right, where you teach people your stuff. You could license. You could do books. You could have online media. You could have webinar products like this. You could have coaching and mentoring services that are packaged, not per hour. That you could have something whereby you actually run a whole international convention for a company and you bring in your other speakers and you put it all together. So that could be a way of you maybe making $50,000 or $100,000 on an event or a gig or something like that. Productization is the key. One of the best ways to see how people productize is why don't you go and enroll in some great speakers' products and see the journey that they take you on. And that's one way to learn. So with that, let's go to the Global Speakers Summit 2018. Now, I want to give you 5 brilliant reasons to pack up your bags and come to New Zealand. We're going to be having more after this, so stay tuned. I've got 6 key areas that I want to talk to you about, of course. So firstly, why come to New Zealand 23 to 26 February 2018? Well, you're going to have 200 plus of the world's best thought leaders in that room, in those rooms to learn from, to get the best practice from, and to network with. I went to the first one in Singapore in 2005. It was a phenomenal event. I have friends, I have collaborations I still use from that event. As the chair of this summit, you go to a lot of summits where the speakers are fairly average. As the chair of this summit, I guarantee you that I'm going to be putting the right and the best people on stage and the most relevant speakers on stage. What that means is I'm not going to necessarily put on somebody just because they've got a brand. I'm not necessarily going to put on somebody because they've been at every other GSS or they've been around the industry for 100 years. We're going to put the right people on stage, and we have a group of people assessing those right people. You're going to make connections that can take you truly international. This is the one place where all the secrets are shared. There's no holds barred here. The way we've brought this up and the way we've designed our events here in our talks, the workshops and what we call the diamond sessions, there are pure content, A to Z style content. So this is not somewhere where you're going to hear a bunch of people touting their stories at all. And of course, New Zealand is a first-class destination as well. It's one of those bucket list items in the world. If you haven't been there, New Zealand will blow you away. Back to our content. Folks, you've got to learn to sell. You know, John Shackleton, a good friend of mine, said, "You're not a speaker, you're a marketer who speaks." And he's quite right. I've never found a truer word. You've got to learn to market and you've got to learn to sell. We're going to deal with marketing differently. When you're selling, if you can't convert every single person that you're one-to-one with from a keynote or a training workshop perspective, then you need to get some sales training yourself. You need to go and invest in this. And look, I wrote a book on sales training. It was my first book, right? Eyes Wide Open, a visionary guide to selling financial services. So I knew how to sell, and I knew how to sell very well. But still, in 2016, I invested $50,000 US to work with some of the best people in the world to refine my sales technique. So all of you need better technique. That's for sure. We can all learn. So here's some keys. Don't discount. When people say, you know, I have a standard thing when people say, listen, your fee's quite high. We really want to hire you and your fee's high. We've got, you know, let's just say your fee's $10,000 and they say we've only got $5,000. I always just say, I'm quite happy with 5,000. No problem. I'm just going to halve my talk. Are you good with that? And they go, oh, it's a joke. No, I'm not good with that. What you would do is you would add more value. Hold the integrity of your fee and add more value. So what I might say if somebody's discounting me and say, look, particularly if you're speaking on sales, my goodness, if you're speaking on sales, you can never discount. Hell, if you discount, you're showing them how bad a sales speaker you are. So I say to them, listen, under no circumstances will I discount my fee, and I won't do that because it diminishes the integrity and I feel bad and I'm going to feel undervalued, and then I'm not going to want to deliver on a cellular level. But what I can do, if you're prepared to pay that fee, what I can do is I guarantee you that I'll stay for your dinner. I guarantee you that I will network with your key clients that you want me to network with. You see how this can work here? I guarantee you that I'll debrief with 2 or 3 of your key people in your organization a week later. So that type of thing, or, because your books might only cost you, $1 or $2 each, you say, I'll give everybody a copy of my book. Probably don't do that if there's 1,000 people in the audience. But if there's 20, 30, 40 people that you're doing for a training session, that is definitely something that you could do. So don't try and fit your client to your standard keynote or training. Be flexible. Work with them on what is going to work, right, for them. Adapt. Be prepared to be adapt. Video testimonials is the key. We're not trusting these days. So if somebody says, listen, I really like who you are, but I've got to see you in action. You say, look, you can see me in action. That's no problem. But why don't you have a look at these 3 people that are in similar companies to you and hear what they have to say? That's going to be powerful. You've got to have the right contracts and you've got to have them there. Get deposits up front. If you're selling from stage, you've got to learn some of the techniques. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be in your power. You can do this whole NLP, get them to run to the back of the room, blah, 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 blah. It works in some places around the world. That's sure, and sometimes it's fun, right, to do that. But most of the time, it's not going to work in other places. You try and do that in some countries, you're going to have people sit there and you're going to look like a dummy because nobody wants to get up first. So therefore, you have to be authentic in this. And I definitely suggest that you run public events. Your next sale's in the audience. So by people seeing you, and then you actually ask them to give referrals to organizations you could speak at, you're going to create referrals right there in your audience. And if you run public events, this is a great way for you to trial selling from stage as well. Now, don't go and think you can sell from stage if you've never done it. This is by far probably the hardest thing on the planet to do. And most people that sell from stage are terrible at it and they get no results. There's probably 25 people, maybe 100 people in the world that are really any good at this. Now, it's an art form and I've studied it since 2004 and I've been selling on stage since 2005. So it's a long, long time and I've had all the sorts of responses from nothing to huge days out. I haven't had $1 million day out yet, right? I don't talk to the size of audiences generally that could create that. But I did create, my top day I think was $360,000 out of 200 people. So, and I regularly have days of 6 figures selling from stage. If you match the right product with the audience at the right price point, and if you build your rapport well enough, if you hold enough back and don't give them too much so they think they've got all the answers now, and if you actually then get them to take action and put some sort of scarcity or time frame or something involved in that that's real, then you will be able to sell from stage, because selling is just storytelling. There's not a lot more to it than that. So when you start a story, tell that story and build it towards that sale. Go and study with some great mentors and learn to sell from stage. The next one is brokers. And what I mean by brokers is, if you're working with a speaking bureau is a broker. They're putting you in front of audiences. So they're taking their brokerage commission, but they're not the only ones. I find that some great brokers for you are other speakers, but they don't know about it or they don't think about it. So instead of trying to clean out the world, go to 5 or 6 speakers that you respect, who once they've given their keynote, you know that organization's probably not going to have them back the next year to give their keynote. And say to them, as that CEO is thanking you and everything like that, saying, listen, do you have conferences every year? They're going to say yes. So because it's occurred to me that you actually need one of my friends here at this conference. He's going to be fantastic for you next year, or she's going to be fantastic for you next year. And then get that person to put you and that CEO together immediately after conference so that you can start building towards next year. Wouldn't it be great to have all next year's bookings done now? Consultants and training companies are great ways to cut your teeth and to get out there and get referrals into speaking. You've got high-level consultants that are working with your clients every day of the week. They're doing HR consulting. They're doing strategy consulting. They're doing leadership consulting. They're doing safety and health consulting. They're in there working at a high level with corporations, and they don't speak. They don't run training rooms. They're conduits for you to open doors for you to go in and train and work with that. And then there's training companies. And what I mean by training companies is there's many of these around the world that actually are sales arms and put on large events, filling rooms full of 20, 30, 40 people, 15, 20 rooms a week on various topics. You can go and work for them as well. It's a great way to cut your teeth in that. And then there's Facebook and LinkedIn buddies also. Meaning this is you've already got a network through your social media. So one of my good friends, Justin Herald, goes out to his social media regularly and says, hey, listen, I've got some vacancies in November, if it's July, for talking. If you're working for a corporation now, or if you know anybody who's senior at a corporation, put me in touch with them. If I'm able to get the gig from them, I will pay you the same fee that I pay a speaking bureau to get me the gig. So there's ways to move around the system. And by doing that, he normally gets a couple of gigs out of that. So they're great ways to utilize. I find that using joint venture partners is a fantastic way to speak on other people's stages, is a definite way to start building yourself towards that 7 figures. Because often there will be a slot. If somebody is running a workshop for a day or 2 days, and they've got a good number of people in there, for you to go in and do 15, 20 minutes, half an hour of content there, you can often walk out with more money than they do in that workshop there. And providing you've got an upfront arrangement that you're able to sell there, then go and do that. It can be very, very good. I've done that many times and had big, big successes at it. In fact, a 5-minute speech in LA in 2007 netted me $150,000. So it's definitely well worth looking at other people's stages. Let's get back to our GSS 2018. You can tell I'm excited about this. I'm excited because, it's the first time it's really come to the Pacific part of the world. It's a killer destination. I know the registrants that are coming already. Some of them are amazing speakers and have amazing things to share. So we have workshops there. Okay, workshops which are going to be around about 45 minutes on a particular topic. And these are going to be topics such as productization, such as selling from stage, such as marketing online, such as new technologies, apps you can use for your business, cross-border cultural business, working internationally, getting joint venture partners, writing your book, etc., etc., etc. These are all great sessions that are going to be workshopped out at this event. Then we have keynotes, obviously, but the keynotes are not, I climbed a mountain and I fell off, or, I sailed across the world, or I was, the number one footballer in the draft, or anything like that. These keynotes here are really keynotes based around maybe getting international in your speaking, maybe getting that first really 6-figure speaking client, those type of things. And then we have diamond sessions. Diamond sessions are just 20 minutes. They're TED Talk sessions. They're 5 key bullet points on a particular topic. We have a corporate day on day 1. This is a 4-day conference. On day 1, we have a corporate day where leading New Zealand corporates are going to be in the audience and bureaus are going to be in the audience. So you can come and speak at GSS 2018. So all you need to do to speak at GSS 2018 is make the cut. So you go to the website there, gss2018.com, do that, write that down or do that later, gss2018.com. Then at the top right, you'll see a little thing at the top right corner that said, put in a submission to speak. Just put in your submission there. It'll tell you all the topics, all the workshops that you can speak at, and then you can find something that matches your expertise, come to New Zealand and actually speak in front of the New Zealand audience, maybe speak in front of bureaus there and get some work, maybe speak to New Zealand corporates, but at the very least you'll be on a stage where you're going to attract potential joint venture partners, mentors, and people you can work with over the next few years. That's what I did to build my brand, and it worked very, very well for me. Let's get into multi-funnel marketing. You see, again, you're not a speaker, you're a marketer who speaks, John Shackleton, right? So you need to have different funnels to attract and stick people to you. You need a sticky strategy. You need a strong YouTube channel. So on this YouTube channel, you've got to place your content and keep that content at a regular, consistent level and keep posting it up at a regular, consistent level too. It's not something I've personally done that well. I've got a lot of content up there. I think over 400 videos. Most of it's private because we use it for clients, but I do have 500 or 600 subscribers there who see me every time. So every time I post a video, I'm literally talking to 500 or 600 people. How cool is that, right? So, and I don't think I've done it that well. I have friends of mine who have got 20, 30,000 subscribers, which means that every time they post something, they're talking to 20 or 30,000 people. How cool is that? And because it's video, it's no different than this webinar. See, I can take this webinar now and I can post it to my YouTube channel. In fact, I've got this link to my YouTube channel on automatic, so you won't see it. It's private, but I'll be sharing it with people that I want to in future. You need good splash pages, and they might be for certain topics, solving certain problems. Would you like to have your staff stay longer at work? Are you concerned about the productivity of your people? Each of those could be a splash page. Do you really understand the different personality types? That's another splash page. And then those splash pages lead directly to you. The thing that you signed up for this special online event, not webinar, on is a splash page. That's what it is. And all I have on there is very simple copy, an engagement piece where people just register, and a simple video that tells people about who I am. That's it, basically, all it is, okay? Virtual summits are huge at the moment. I'm involved in a virtual summit at the moment, which has 50 other speakers on there. At the moment, I think it's got 2 weeks to run before it goes live. There are 4,000 people on the summit. So that's like going to a conference and speaking to 4,000 people and every single person having a workshop session, apart from a couple of the big names that these people have on their summits. So a typical thing that somebody will do is run a virtual online summit, and on this one they've got Jack Canfield. He's probably the poster child here, chicken soup for the soul, right? So Jack's on there, but we're also on there. The other 50 of us. So I see great speakers from all around the world. Frederick Haren, again, Frank Finesse is on there, Jerome Joseph. These guys have been around for years and they're great speakers, and they're all doing their stuff on here. But the fact of the matter is that there's big ticket names. Now, those big ticket names might get, 1,000 people watch their show. You might get 50 or 100 people watch your show, but it's 50 or 100 people that you're doing in the comfort of your lounge room. So get involved in these virtual summits. And if you've got a great call to action on that, on this one, I'm actually promoting the GSS 2018, just the same as I am on this webinar. If I was promoting one of my products on this webinar with the number of people that we've got on this webinar, this would be a $10,000 to $20,000 talk that I'm doing right now. So I would assume that we're going to get around about 10 of you register from this particular process that we're going through now, at the very least for GSS 2018. So that's just the way it works. So podcasts are another one. We've had our podcast, we call it a radio show, that's been up since 2011. Again, we don't do it weekly or anything like that. We do it when we have interesting people to share with the world. but again, that has subscribers to it. So those subscribers get it. It's on iTunes, so it gets lots of listens. So, our number one show that we ever had on was actually with our friend Wolfgang Reber, and we had, I think, 16,000 listens to that show. That's a great amount of listens on a show. So, if you're promoting something or talking about something or run ads during your podcast, wow, you're going to engage people to do things. Then there's article marketing as well. Get on Evan Carmichael, get on Huffington Post, get on the various curated article marketing sites and get in there under your super niche. Sales technology, right? Sales technology gone wrong. Sales technology for 2020, sales technology for the small business. You can see how we could pitch these things in there and then start getting joint ventures and promoters on board as well. So if you get joint ventures and people who are prepared to promote you, to put you on a stage, this is a fantastic way, once you learn to sell, to actually get up there and make sales from stage. Okay? If I get a joint venture partner on stage, I would probably normally close probably around about, be reasonable, 100 people, probably about $200 a person, I would say, unless I get them for any degree of time. So that would be about a $20,000 talk with a couple of hundred people, generally speaking. If I'm blowing it out, that's what it'll be. If I nail it with 200 people, it could be a $100,000 talk for sure. So, you can see that if I can talk to just only 1,000 people a year in 5 audiences, that I can actually have a $500,000 business if I don't blow one of the talks. That's pretty cool. So joint ventures and promoters are very, very important for you. And remember, with all of your marketing material, have it congruent. Okay, I've got some of my books up here. Okay, so my cover designer has been the same cover designer for eons. So have it congruent. Have it give you clarity. What actually is this thing that you're promoting? And having heart in it, your heart, that's paramount, absolutely paramount for you. The final area I want to speak to you about just before we go to any questions and things like that, and I do have some questions that have come in on my chat room and via my Skype while I've been doing this, so I'm going to address these, they're very good questions, I must say. I've got the 3 I've picked out to start with, which are very good, is flow, community, and giving back. So you have to learn to outsource and share. You have to learn to brief. Now, you've got some options. You've got Upwork and you've got Fiverr, Fiverr. And you've also got options through different companies. One of my friends runs a company out of the Philippines that has amazing outsourcing, 450 staff there waiting for you to actually jump on board, and they can give you 10, 20, 30, 40 hours a week of not one staff member, but of various staff members to do various tasks. So you need to, I would write a line down the middle of a page. On the left-hand side, write everything in your business you want to do. On the right-hand side, write everything that you want to outsource. Do not outsource anything until you really know how to do it yourself. That would be a trick there. And when you write a brief, put a hook in the brief. In other words, put a trick in the brief. Lundy Jack, my partner, who you see in this photo here with me in Malaysia, this puts a trick in her briefs. Her very last sentence in a brief is, once you've read the brief, report back to me with the word pirate in your title. 2 out of 10 people do, so she doesn't work with the other 8. She dismisses them. Why? Because they haven't read the brief. If they can't follow a simple instruction, they're not going to deliver for you. You need to build relationships with these people. Tipping them is always good to get you at the front of the queue if they are truly great outsourcers that are working across borders and that sort of thing. Don't take risks with people who don't have fantastic referrals, and you look at the referrals. Make sure that they're genuine and bona fide. There is a way to actually manipulate referrals that some of these clever people have worked out, but they all do read fairly much the same. So look at something that comes from heart. If something doesn't work in your business, if you try one of these ideas or something else, something doesn't work, try something else, change it. Not everything works for everybody. I've changed things plenty of times. I had an amazing series of events in 2011 and 2012 called Business Mysteries Revealed. By 2013, that brand didn't work anymore, and what I was talking about didn't work anymore. So I just changed it. I haven't run that event since about 2014. I tried it again in 2014, didn't work, so I tossed it. Okay, you've got to change things. That's about flow. You've got to flow. Build community. Maybe get a member site or at least a Facebook group. One of our communities we've got is with this, who's probably one of our leading clients, Dwi Mas International School, the first entrepreneurial school in Malaysia. We run events there. They're part of our titanium circle of clients. And so we build community from their extended community there as well. Make sure you contribute back to your industry, to your society, or to your passions. Again, I'm chairing the Global Speakers Summit. I'm not getting paid for it. I don't get referral fees. It's taken an extreme amount of my time, but it's part of my giving back. And constantly seek to be prepared to pay for the best mentors that you can find globally. Look, you're going to find some of the answers on YouTube. There's no doubt about that. It's going to take you a hell of a lot of time. But if you pay to have a day or a week or an experience with the person who is the best at doing what you need to do, by heck, are you going to fast track on that? You know, we flew all the way to America to spend 3 days with our mentors last year, over 100,000 US in fees to do that. But I got to tell you, it absolutely took us to the next level in what we were doing and really got us very succinct on what we wanted to be going forward. And we're already successful in what we do. So pay to play the best people globally. And by the way, I'm not selling you mentoring today. You can apply to me if you want to. We have a process that we take people through, and I knock back 7 in 10 people that approach me. Actually, it's possibly closer to 8. Okay, with that, all about a final word on the GSS and then into questions. The fund, the pricing on the GSS to be part of it is about $1,000. And when I say about, it'll depend on whether you're a member of an association, a non-member, your timing, whether you're still on the early bird, after the early bird, but it's going to be around $1,000, which is nothing, right? It's, 1/10 of what your speaking fee should be on 1 gig, and probably will be if you come to this. So go to GSS 2018, ask questions that you've got from there. You'll see how to contact the team from there. Ask any questions. If you want to speak at GSS 2018, go to the top right and apply. You've got to be part of this. It's amazing. I call this a growth hack strategy. So this is a fast tracking strategy to get you connected, to get you educated, and people learn faster when they're out of their norm. You sitting in your lounge room watching YouTube with interruptions and all the stuff, or you sitting in a classroom in Connecticut trying to do this is one thing. But you jumping on a plane, going to the other side of the world and spending 4 days with the caliber of people that are going to be in this room, it's going to change your life. And there are plenty of excuses, so I'm going to deal with them quickly on the next page as we get into the excuses. So some of your excuses are going to be, I'm not global. Well, you should be. It's a global world out there. If you're not global at the moment, I'm global and I'm sitting in my lounge room. Yet there are people of you on this call from the UK. There are people of you on this call from Ireland. There are people on this call from Australia. There's people on this call from Hong Kong. There's even people on this call from Mexico. So you are global. Oh, you've been there, you've done that. You've been to many, many of these type of things. Oh man, that really annoys me because these type of things are awesome. But here's the thing, is that one of the problems with these type of things is the way they're set up. Normally when people run summits, they invite people to speak and then they create their program around those speakers. We haven't done that. We've set the program. We've told people what they're speaking on, what we need delivered, and we're finding the right speakers and matching it to our program. It's very, very different. If you're just starting out, don't spend years making mistakes. This will fast track you. Save up the money, beg, borrow, steal from friends, whatever you have to do, come out to New Zealand in February 2018. If you're just starting out, it's a perfect place to get connected. And what about the cost? The cost is going to be small. Look, it's going to cost you maybe a couple of $1,000 or several thousand to come out by the time you paid for your flights and accommodation. It's tax deductible. That's fantastic. I look at it this way. If it teaches me to get 1 extra talk next year, I've probably broken even. If I can get 2, I'm in profit, right? But this is the place where you're not going to get 1 or 2 extra talks. This is the place where you're going to grow in a leap and a bound, 20, 30, 40% probably because of this one event. You see, you and your business are directly affected by world events. Whether you want to stay at home or build a global business practice, the reality is that you're affected by global events. So you need to get global and you need to understand global. Your speaking industry has an exciting future, both locally, nationally, and especially internationally. It's really opening up around the world. And you're only as strong as your network. So you can build a network on Facebook, but it's not as strong as my network. I'm telling you that because I can fly to Tokyo, I can fly to Istanbul, I can fly to Lima, and I actually know people there. And they're people that I've worked with and network with. That's why getting on a plane and doing these things is really important. And you're part of a movement that matters. Our theme for the GSS 2018 is from leadership to legacy. So we're really focusing on that legacy aspect. Speakers are a force for good and the planet needs us. With that, we're going to go to questions. Right, as I said, we've got some great questions here, and I want to try and finish just right on the hour. So I'm going to see if I can deal with the top three. The first question here is really about how do I write my book? Okay, it's a big question, big topic for speakers. Number one is I'd suggest you write your book on the thing that you know the most about. Number two in that is I would suggest that you use a formula that I've taught for years. Most people read in 20-minute blocks. In 20 minutes, you can read 3,000 to 4,000 words. So 3,000 to 4,000 should be a chapter. You'll need 12 to 15 chapters for a book. So take a topic. I'm sitting here looking at the ocean as I'm talking to you. I'm looking at surfers. I don't surf. So my book is going to be called Surfing the Oceans. So my topics and my chapters are going to be which oceans around the world are best. What type of boards can I use? What do I do about the temperature, et cetera, et cetera? What are some of the different styles that I use? Then I'd have a chapter on the big wave surfing. As you can see, I've got 5 or 6 topics already there, so I could easily create 10, 12, 15 chapters. Then I look on what sort of board do I use. Now I'm going to break that one chapter down into 10 other pieces. So here's 10 other pieces on that chapter, or at least a few of them. What's it made out of? What length is right for my body? How should I finish it? How should it be sculpted? Should it stand out? Should I have more than one, et cetera, et cetera? Are different ones appropriate for different waves, et cetera, et cetera? So those are the types of things that you could definitely be bringing into your sub-chapters there. Then the next part on writing your book is just get it out there, get it published. Don't publish a cheap book. If you're going to self-publish, go to buy a book, look at how a publisher publishes a book, and have your designers copy that same format exactly. And that's how you basically bring out that book. Okay, Wayne Dyer has a saying, and his saying is, you're not an author until you've written a book, put 3,000 copies in the trunk of your car, and sold them. And I think that that's technically pretty right as well. So definitely go out there and do that. Next question is, okay, let's deal with this one. Let's deal with how do I get started internationally? Okay, the first thing that I would do is I would look at some of the big international association summits. So for instance, if you come out of the financial industry, there'll be financial summits around the world. There'll be insurance summits. There will be accounting summits. There will be those types of summits. If you're an expert in sales, there'll be industries that run summits for selling. So for instance, one of the ones I drove past the other day was in the travel industry. So it was the Travel Industry Expo and Advancing Travel Towards 2020. I look at that, there's room for a sales speaker in that, okay? So I'd go and offer my services. I'd pay my own flight. Why? Because it's an investment in your future. It doesn't matter if you go to this summit and you spend $5,000 of your own money getting there just to speak. You pay to play. Get connected. The HR summit is huge in Singapore every year, okay? I think they have about 1,000 people at that summit. How many clients do you need to really impress or get alongside to get your money back from those type of things? Tell them that you're prepared to speak for free if they give you a booth at these summits. So that way now you've got a place to network and to meet people and to hand out flyers and to grab email lists and things like that from there. That would be a great way to get started. Another great way to get started is to see if you can get on somebody else's stage for 15 or 20 minutes. I flew all the way to America in 2007 to find out I thought I had 45 minutes on stage, to find out that I was given 5 minutes on stage. But in that 5 minutes, I closed $150,000 worth of business. So going and doing something weird like that, if you've got confidence, is absolutely the right thing to do. The other thing is get connected through your radio programs, through your podcasts, through your YouTube, through your LinkedIn posts, through your blogs to people around the world and start interacting with them. There are different ways to go global. And I just want to tell you a quick story on that, and then I'm going to take the third question that we've got here. And we've got a few others coming through, but please drop them to me offline. There should be a Facebook link up at the bottom of your screen there as well that you can drop them to me or put them in the chat, and I will answer them offline. Quick story is that in 2007, a young speaker came and asked me how to get international. My comment was, get on a plane and go. And he said, who will listen to me at the other end? My answer was customs. They have to. But anyway, he took my advice and he went international. But he didn't go anywhere that was normal for him to go. He was from New Zealand. I would have thought international meant Australia or at the, maybe America or maybe London. That would be a typical place. No, he went to India. And over the next 18 months, he got his products into 10,000 schools in India. That's a massive contribution to this world. Okay, the third question here. Let's see, which one will I pick? There's a couple of good new ones coming out. Okay, what about this one? Okay. Is it wise to align with charities? Oh, this is a great question. Wise? Maybe. Important? Very much so. Look, we're in the business of giving back. We give back through our voice. We impact through our voice. We should be using that to speak for charities. One of the charities I'm involved in, Global Dialogue Foundation, I'm on the board of it. I've spoken for them a couple of times, and I've had others, people in my business, speak for them and even travel around the world to speak for them as well. It becomes a part of what you do. It becomes a story that you can tell, and you never know when things are going to come out of this. Through my love of the Sage Foundation and that charity there, it led me to be invited to be participating in the Clinton Global Initiative, and it led President Clinton to write a note about me and give me a certificate, which is part of my introduction. Mike Handcock was mentioned by President Clinton for his philanthropic work. So you never know where this is going to head, but don't do it because you think about what you're going to get. Do it because you think about what you're going to give. Folks, we're right on the hour there. So thank you so much for being part of this awesome webinar today. Go to gss2018.com and register there. We will catch you all later. I hope you have a fantastic life in speaking.